Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rafae, Iqbal, and in today's episode we'll be talking about the economic developments that we've been seeing since yesterday. And of course, in that regard, yesterday was a very good day for Pakistan's economy. In regards to that, we know earlier in the day, the State Bank of Pakistan's Monetary Policy Committee had cut down the monetary policy rate by 2%. From 19.5% to 17.5%, which was a reduction in the basis points by 200. With that regards, it was a very positive development, and as all the media experts and the economic experts were saying, it is a very welcome omen. As we know, the cut in the interest rate, it boosts the trade activity in the country as it increases the borrowing capacity of the people, and it further re-energizes the trading and business community of the country and provides a boost to the activities. And in that regard, we know that the government has been putting a lot of efforts for revitalizing of the national economy, to re-energize the investors and to encourage the investors and the private sector to come forth. In that regard, the Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb had also said that it is not the job of the government to do business, but only to make policy. And he encouraged the private sector to come forth and step up the business and trading activities in the country. In that regards, the government has been trying to provide a conducive business environment, and with the positive indicators that we've seen relating to the economy, the cut down in the inflation rate to 9.6%, the international rating agencies giving good credit ratings to Pakistan, and also the biggest development that we saw yesterday with regards to the Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb's statement with regards to the breakthrough with the IMF regarding the extended fund facility that Pakistan has been wanting to seek from the IMF. And the IMF spokesperson also said that a board meeting will be held on the 25th of September. In regards to that, the finance minister had to say that the country is now moving towards the right direction and the economy is also heading towards the right path. With regards to that, the positive news that we saw yesterday, there was a bullish trend witnessed at the Pakistan Stock Exchange. The KSE 100 index witnessed a surge of over 300 points. With regards to that, we see that the investor confidence in the country has increased with regards to the activity in the stock exchange. The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has also addressed today, and he held a meeting with the Secretary General of International Maritime Organization to discuss blue economy in the country. In that regards, he said that advancing fisheries and shipbreaking industry should be given a priority, and Pakistan has to tap into the blue economy as it has a lot of potential, and Pakistan can benefit from this potential in revenue generation with regards to the blue economy. There's efforts being put in by the government and the SIFC with regards to increasing foreign direct investment in the country with regards to blue economy as well. The finance minister earlier, he stressed on how the private sector now needs to play their part and also ramp up their business and trade activities in the country, as the government is providing them a conducive business environment for them to flourish, and of course they contribute to the spinning of the country's economic wheel. We'll be talking in detail about the different aspects of the economic developments. In the studios, we have been joined by geopolitical analyst Raja Faisal. Along with that, we have been joined by Salman, who is the Executive Director of Prime. And on Skype, we have been joined by Senior Analyst Farrukh Pitafi. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. With regards to the economic developments, I'd like to move towards Mr. Ali Salman first and begin our conversation with regards to how do you think the government's policies, the policies that the government has been adopting in the past few weeks and over the past few months, owing to the positive economic trends that we're seeing, and how do you think these positive economic trends that we're seeing can further be incorporated into the policy so it trickles down benefit to the common person?
Thank you so much, Rafae, for having me on the show. I think when we talk about the economic situation, we have to look at largely from two parameters. First is the macroeconomic environment, the policy direction, in which we talk about exchange rate, inflation, growth rate, job situation. And then we also need to look at the business environment, in which we talk about the sentiment in the business community, but also the regulatory environment, the investment flows in the country, the attitude of or the expectations of the investment firms in the country. So we have to look at both aspects when we look at the economy. So I think from that perspective, there is no doubt that since last few months, we are on the right trajectory, particularly looking at one of the major challenges which we were facing was a historically high inflation rate, which has now come down to less than 10%, on a year-to-year basis. Now, this is certainly a good news from a consumer's perspective, but also from a business perspective, because this is how the state bank always traces its monetary policy. And that's why, as you mentioned in the beginning, the state bank has introduced 200 basis points reduction in the policy rate, which is the single largest reduction in last 4 years in its monetary policy. And this was one of the persistent demands of the business community, although they were expecting and they were demanding that the monetary policy rate should be brought down significantly. But they are looking at just from the headline inflation, whereas the central bank monetary policy committee looks at the long-term inflation rate, and their long-term target is to bring the inflation rate in the range of 5 to 7%. And I think the direction is moving towards that same way. But at the same time, I think in addition to this positive development, or along with this, we also see finally long expected and awaited announcement from the IMF that Pakistan, which already has signed the staff level agreement, was also already there back in July, and it was matter of procedure that in the due time IMF board will also approve. So we hope that on 25th of September we will see the board approval, which means at least two immediate positive outcomes. First is that our forex reserves will improve, because we'll expect the first tranche to be arrived in October, but also it will improve the balance of payment, on which government has by its own measures was improving, and the balance of payment deficit was also significantly improved over last 6 months. So I think these are the macroeconomic I would say achievements which the present government has materialized in a few months. However, how it translates into the business environment, business confidence, creation of jobs, creation of new firms, creation of new investment is still to be seen. Because as I would like to mention in today's, we also issued a statement from Prime Institute that when the interest rates are coming down, there is also a risk that the government borrowing may also increase, because it becomes more easier for the government also to borrow from the commercial banks. And as we know, in the current system, our commercial credits, about 70% of our borrowing is taken up by the government, not by the private sector. So we want more private sector to be in the credit market, so that the positive consequences for a reduction in the rate and other announcements can flow through the private sector.
Definitely. With regards to that, as we see that the cut in the interest rate, it boosts business activity. But it also increases the consumer spending in the country. With regards to that, for Pitafi, I'd also like to ask you, how do you think it's going to be a challenge for the government to create a balance between the two? So it's easier to balance the balance of payments. I think we have trouble connecting to Farrukh Pitafi. Raja Faisal, how do you comment on that? Maintaining the balance of payments with regards to how there's going to be increased trading activity in the country, but there's also going to be increased consumer spending.
Yeah, Rafae, when we obviously talk about our economic situation in coming months and years, of course it would be quite a tricky situation, and the ride won't be that smooth. But at the same time, we already know that the recommendations which were being recommended by IMF itself, of course, we have been in compliance with that, and of course the government it had to make very tough decisions as well in recent times. The reason being the only sort of aim of the government was to, of course, keep the momentum of Pakistan's economy on the right track, so that we don't end up having an economy that is shuttered. Overall, if we look at the condition of the economy, I mean, as before the program started and we were discussing about it, that the overall economic situation of Pakistan can be easily assessed by the factor that the sort of confidence which every individual has on its economy. Has it been revived, or we are still working on it? Yes, there is some confidence that is revived, but more work needs to be done. Why I say this? Because every individual is part of the economy at large, and when there is consumers confidence in the economy, that's when we see that the we see the pockets of the people getting loosened a bit, so that they can, of course, spend a bit of money. Their money becomes part of the economy at large, and eventually that money revolves around, and the pace of the money getting revolved, it increases, and that actually is the sign that there is confidence that is on the economic situation of Pakistan. And of course the result of that actually takes us to our domestic production lines. Our domestic production lines, they see more demand from the market, and when they see more demand, of course the production, it requires more and more workers, and when it requires more and more workers, then of course job creation is there, and the very money that job gives them, of course it once again becomes part of the economy at large. So overall, looking at this situation, and of course we have been in recent past we have been highlighting again and again that the economy at the larger context, when it would be seeing that confidence, of course the IMF program boost, it would further strengthen it. And we shouldn't be forgetting that there are our friendly countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia and China. The money we borrow, and immediately we needed a sort of rescheduling of that, and we were seeing in the recent past that the that reschedule was to be considered on the basis that whether we are going to secure our deal with the IMF or not. Once we have it now, of course, in very near future, we will be seeing that the ease of business in that sense as well, that we will be rescheduling all of them debts as well. That would be an extra effect we will be seeing in coming months on our economy. So I'm not saying that very quickly everything overnight everything would be changed in terms of our economy, but time is not far that slow and steady and the right sort of decisions need to be made. And if there are decisions that are made, then the consistent sort of use of the authority on them decisions to be implemented, that is required, because we have committed certain recommendations which were recommended by IMF. We have committed to that and we have to stick to that, because that is something, I mean, we always say IMF is the doctor and we are the patient, and doctor knows the best which medicine we need to take at what time. So right now, of course, them medicines, they are prescribed to us, and we have to, of course, comply ourselves with them medicine, and we shouldn't be looking towards any other side. Yes, when it comes to, of course, the internal source of resource we have, SIFC is brilliantly working on that. Of course, Chief of the Army Staff personally is, interested in that we have to explore our potential more and more to fix everything from the grassroots. And I personally believe that with time and with the right choices and with the right efforts of the government, we will be overcoming all of the challenges which are being faced by our economy, and in coming future, we will be in a position to say, yes, we have stabilized ourselves in a very positive way.
Right, Farrukh Pitafi, in light of what Raja Faisal had to say, when there's going to be increased trading activity, increased business in the country, there's going to be job creation, there's going to be revenue adding to the national economy. With regards to that, with the policy of the government to be truly implemented and bear fruit in its actual sense, how crucial do you think tax reforms are going to be? Because there's a lot of foreign direct investment going to come into the country, as we see the boost in the Pakistan Stock Exchange, we see the investor confidence gaining momentum. There's also going to be activity within the domestic investors, within the domestic entrepreneurs and businessmen in the country. With regards to that, how do you think the government can capitalize on all this investment and trading activity, and how crucial are those tax reforms going to be, and digitalization efforts and increasing the tax net?
Right. Thank you very much, Rafae, for the question. Let me remind everybody who's listening that this is in a row. This is third day that you have brought the question of taxation to me. I'm going to talk about taxation, but I'm overall going to talk about the mood of the economy and the circumstances. Also, of course, everybody has addressed many aspects of whatever we can achieve. And I think that this week seems to be very lucky for Pakistan. It seems some kind of spell has broken, and all of a sudden we seem to be moving rapidly in the right direction. Earlier, Faisal was saying that perhaps it is going to be slow and steady. I think that things are going to look up very fast. I don't know what exactly happened. Inflation seems to be going down, not only locally but globally also. And similarly, oil prices seem to be going down internationally also. So that is also going to help us a lot in coming days. But apart from that, when you talk about, IMF, finally it has taken up, it is going to take up Pakistan's case. And that means hopefully that we are going to actually get the bailout or the deal that was badly needed. Similarly, when it comes to, and the impact you have seen already in the shape of Delhi at the stock market. And that is not all. Then Pakistan has, of course, reduced interest rate. So policy rate cut is also going to stimulate economy, although it is still a little shy of what we should be hearing about. But of course, the State Bank of Pakistan, being the central bank, has to actually look at inflation numbers as well. So they will be keeping in mind how to actually move ahead and how to actually improve things. Regarding taxation, I think that regarding the finance minister's approach, regarding FBR's approach, we are moving in the right direction. The biggest problem that we have seen was of wholesalers and traders, and hopefully in coming days we are going to see further pressure building on them to actually become part of the documented economy. That is very important. Of course, this whole idea of taxation based on tax assessment based on property holding, that is something that is quite interesting. I don't know how that works, but best, I think that FBR has a very good team now, and similarly we have this brilliant finance minister who has finally sailed the economy through, and he has taken us in the right direction. So in coming days, that is going to be something that can really improve our economic performance, particularly its revenue collection. Now, there's one more thing that is very important, because you, in your introduction, you spoke about Prime Minister's interaction with the head of IMO. And that is very important because Pakistan has a coastal belt which is north of 1300 kilometers. So with that kind of exposure to the ocean, one would have actually thought that the country is really exploiting its maritime resources. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Remember, Pakistan is a populous country, and despite that, and of course, there are pockets of poverty also. So meat consumption is also very important. But do you know what is the per capita, per annum consumption of fish in this country? The country that still has to actually go a long way in ensuring food security. In that country, less than 2 kilos of fish is consumed per annum per capita. So that can actually improve, and I hope that does. Similarly, Pakistan trades with the Committee of Nations, but Pakistan does not seem to have any private, shipping company. Pakistan has to rely only on the state, national flag carrier for shipments. So hopefully in coming days we are going to see some kind of capitalization of that market also. Similarly, energy production. That is the third feature of marine or blue economy. And Pakistan hasn't been able to exploit that either. So in coming days, I think that when you look at the circumstances, when you look at resources of this country, which has ocean, which has rivers also, I hope that in coming days we really are able to exploit the marine resources because that is going to really give us boost in our economy. Apart from that, of course, when it comes to ease of doing business that Raja Faisal was talking about, I think SIFC is there. I hope that in coming days we devise a mechanism that ensures that both foreign investors and local investors both have enough capacity to invest and get profit from the businesses that they want to explore. And with that kind of circumstances, I hope that in coming days we see a boost in economic performance. Because without that, all this talk about value chains, creating value chains in the country. Remember, we are sitting next to two powerhouses, economic powerhouses, India and China. Both are producing everything under the sun. We seem to be lagging behind, and our exports are the same that have been there for past 25, 30 years. So I hope that we, focus on those things as well, diversify our export portfolio, and then ensure that the economy stands on its feet. And this IMF deal or this package is the last one, so that we don't have to go to the doctor of last resort for further help. Rafae.
Definitely, that's very articulate, as you just mentioned. Salman, I'd like your comments as well with regards to how we've been talking about the economic developments. We've also been talking about how there needs to be innovation regarding the Pakistan's products that we sell to the world at large, whether it be services, whether it be products. But the problem is there's, as Farrukh Pitafi has highlighted in our earlier shows, there's not as much value addition to those products. Specifically when we talk about the IT sector, the agriculture sector, how do you think there's more innovation that can be introduced, specifically when we talk about the IT sector, the mines and mineral sector, and the agriculture sector, which the government is focusing on to facilitate?
Before I come to the aspect of innovation in the economy, I'd like to briefly respond to one important aspect which Farrukh Pitafi was referring, and it was to do with the tax reforms. I think this is a very significant area, and earlier I was saying that while we have achieved we have made positive gains in terms of macroeconomic situation and macroeconomic policies, our business environment in general does not seem to be inspiring confidence for the businesses. If you read their surveys, if you look at their statements, and I think the tax policy has to play a central role in creating that trust and that confidence. You see, what we witnessed in the budget this year was an increase in the tax rates and a very aggressive tax revenue target. which unfortunately government is currently failing to achieve. And I think that points out that a possible also limitation in the IMF prescription, because where the doctor is just prescribing maybe a target, government is chasing a number but not the reforms and not the systems. And if you look at for instance, the numbers which we have seen and reported from the Tajir Dost scheme and other schemes, the numbers are very disappointing. So I think that is where I would hope that the finance ministry should refocus on to build the trust of the business community so that they can continue doing business and brings new investment. Now, the other aspect which you highlighted is related with exports and innovation. Certainly, there is no doubt that Pakistan is lagging behind in that. In fact, one interesting stat which I would like to share is that Pakistan doubled its exports in 2001 to 2007, and it doubled from to almost reaching $19 billion. So it's doubled its exports in just 6 or 7 years. And now, after the passage of about 17-18 years, we have not been able to double, which means that we are still far behind from the doubling of exports, which should have been around $40 billion today, which is not the case. So it means that our economy has failed to create the level of production and the level of value which is needed and which is required in the international market. And while we talk about that Pakistan has a lot of agriculture potential, the role of agriculture, because of the very low value addition in the sophisticated world market, is quite insignificant. Similarly, we continue to concentrate on the exports, continue to concentrate on the low value added segments of textile rather than the high value added of ready-made garments. So these are unfortunately the limitation in which the economy seem to have stuck. IT, the information technology sector, certainly poses a hope, and I think the government has made some positive reforms, some positive gestures. For instance, it has made certain regulations in foreign exchange rules for the IT companies, which is conducive, and at least the official exports have touched already about $3 billion, and according to estimates, the unofficial exports may be much higher. But the problem is that our IT companies and our individuals who are exporting the IT software or talent or services are not bringing back the exports proceeds back to Pakistan. Significant part has been parked outside Pakistan. So we need to look into this factor, why it's happening, and which course correction that we need to make, so that while there is significant potential in the IT sector, we need to materialize that so that our export income can grow. Because all these measures like arranging loans from friendly countries or arranging another IMF program is all short-term measure. We all know it. Ultimately, for Pakistan to grow, there is only one way forward, and that is how do we increase our export income. While the government is rightly also taking the credit of increased remittance income, there are also some limitations and some offset points in the remittance also. So I would say that going forward, we need to set our targets on how do we double exports in minimum minimum possible time in the future.
Definitely, that's a very important point that you raise. With regards to that, Raja Faisal, I'd like your comments. When we talk about increasing our exports, of course, there's labor that Pakistan exports as well, and it would be an addition to that if that labor has more skill and they have that technical knowledge and technical capability to actually perform a more refined version of their services. Similarly, we see that there's a lot of resources in Pakistan, as we were also talking about yesterday, such as the Himalayan pink salt. There's also products like the Pakistani handicrafts, which are world famous. And in this era of e-commerce and drop shipping and these modern global trading platforms that we're seeing, with regards to that, how do you think this can be further facilitated to the entrepreneurs, the small and medium enterprises? They can tap those international markets and sell products that are originating from Pakistani soil.
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. And of course, when it comes to, of course, exports, I mean, the balance of exports and imports, it's always crucial for any economy. And of course, Pakistan is sort of facing that dilemma. Earlier, I was listening to, of course, Farrukh and Ali, and both of them, they were highlighting excellent points. And I think there are sort of ways we can improve our exports and decrease our imports. There are unnecessary imports which are being, because we are living in a society where using the imported goods is becoming, though they are more expensive, but it's becoming fashion as well. I mean, I think we need to discourage that. We need to improve the quality of our own products as well. Just one single example in this regard I would like to highlight. I mean, when I was a student, I was living in Britain, and of course Farrukh rightly pointed out that we have the fisheries, but we are a country that has a huge potential in terms of we can exploit our blue economy. Of course, our seas, we can exploit them, and we can garner more and more sort of exports in the fishery departments as well. But nobody does anything related to that. There are hurdles related to importing the right technology to process the obviously fish meat and all, and to, of course, the packaging and each and everything. It should be done on the international standards. When I was living in Britain, I was studying there. Of course, the easiest way to make your sandwiches, the fish sandwich, tuna sandwich, or salmon sandwich, or whatever, they were packed in the tins, and each tin was enough for like a couple of sandwiches, and that's how you sell the things. And they were in easy access in terms of anybody could afford that. Same is the case with Pakistan. Pakistan, there are fish in Pakistan's seas which are very rare, which are in huge demand in the world because it's the warm waters. As there is a salmon, pink salmon, Norwegian salmon, of course it comes from the Baltics and from very cold waters, and it has its own significance. There are fish from the warm waters which are preferred by the Western countries, and that can be exploited in Pakistan seas. But of course we haven't got the right technology or right skills in the fishery departments as well, and maybe nobody is putting any extra efforts in towards it. I mean, other countries, fisheries, these are a sort of subject when it comes to people study fisheries there, how to improve the products, because at the end of the day, Pakistan, a country with more than 250 million population, I mean, we must think about it. We must think on these lines as well. Farrukh highlighted excellent point that we only consume around since then I was actually trying to figure out how much fish I consumed a year in recent times, and Farrukh was right. I mean, we ignore this fact, whereas even the doctors say that white meat is more healthy for an individual rather than the red meat. So we should be putting extra efforts in these sort of fields as well. But when it comes to, of course, Pakistan sending its workforce to different countries, I mean, Pakistan has a tradition, a history of sending labor or skilled workforce in the Middle Eastern countries, in the Western countries. But with time, of course, there are slowly and gradually the standards of laborers or skilled workers, they have changed in the world. But our skill development sectors, they are not trying to improve themselves. And I think this needs to be looked into as well, that our people who are still going to abroad, but not in that numbers but what it used to be previously, because if we talk about the Far East countries or Bangladesh or India, they have with time and with the needs of the countries I'm talking about, the Middle Eastern countries, they have changed themselves and they have improved their skilled mechanisms, how to skill their own people. But we are still standing there, and I think we need to improve that sector as well, because at the very position where some other country is sending on decent rates, I mean still we sending because our skill level is not that good. We need to improve that, and that we shouldn't be forgetting that overseas remittances is the second largest sort of intake or that the portion of our economy, and I think we need to focus in that. And when it comes to of course SIFC, I think SIFC needs to put effort in that sector as well. And as you have mentioned about there are exploration of our own resources, I mean there's a brilliant example you've given of salt, the pink salt. There was time that these pink salts, they were simply in shape of stones, were being placed in front of a buffalo, and buffalo was just rolling his tongue over it and enjoying herself, knowing, I mean nobody knew at that time that the very salt would be actually in past it was easily being sent to India, and guess what, India was simply packaging it in their own country, and it was no Pakistan, made in Pakistan or product of Pakistan was mentioned in there. It was only mentioned comes from the Himalayas of India, and it was the company was Israeli company that was actually selling it. The bottle I'm talking about, it was just like 500 grams of that bottle. It was being priced at $18 or $20 in the world. Why? Because suddenly doctors started saying that this pink salt, it has more minerals in it. It has more minerals from natural minerals, and they are so good for health and all. And suddenly we started coming to terms with it that we have something special with us, but we were just simply putting in front of our buffaloes and they were enjoying themselves, and we were simply going along with the white salt. But now of course you have this option, and Pakistan has started processing the same salt in Pakistan under the labels product of Pakistan, made in Pakistan, packaged in Pakistan and sent to Europe, and now you can buy it. But of course these are the priorities. I think we need to fix our priorities. Same is the case with the basmati rice as well. I mean India, it actually started saying the basmati is our rice. No, it's not your rice. You've been actually trying to portray as if it's your rice. We had to of course register the basmati rice as Pakistan's product, not India's product. And I think these are the priorities that we need to work on these, and we can improve our exports, and we can decrease our imports. Very important example which I want to give, and then I'll of course give you mic back to you. That is of these Tesco's and Asda's and Aldi's and all of these Westerner sort of supermarkets. They have all the products. I mean, they have Cokes, they have Pepsis, they have all of the products, but at the same time, you would find the same fizzy drink named Tesco. Lesser in price, but they have the option. Why are they giving it to you? Because you can buy their own product as well. Vodkas, I mean, you would have vodkas and all of these products, but at the same time, you'll have Tesco vodka, Asda vodka, so that they are giving you an option, a sort of a cheaper option, because the brand is not charging for its brand.
So they're giving
and
domestic options.
They are giving an option. This is what we need to do. We need to give Pakistani products option. We have to improve our domestic production. We have to comply with the international standards. You would see even, I mean, the cat food and dog foods, we are importing that. Why can't we make our own cat foods and dog foods? I mean, we are importing, we are spending our dollars. our import bills, they are increasing. We have to reduce that. That's how to improve the economic situation of Pakistan.
Definitely a point very well made. For Pitafi, I'd like your comment. As Raja Faisal talked about how there's the potential that needs to be unlocked fully, it's not being done. With regards to that, we earlier heard the finance minister saying it is not the job of the government to do business. The private sector should step in and should boost up their trade activity, should play their part. With regards to that, do you think the downsizing of the government, creating lesser bureaucratic hurdles, of course there's the SIFC that's helping with the foreign direct investment, with reducing the bureaucratic hurdles, but at the same time we see that there's regulatory frameworks that need to be initiated and created, and of course there's policy frameworks that also need to be streamlined, such as we saw recently in the gemstone sector that was incorporated under the Ministry for Commerce. With regards to that, do you think there needs to be a downsizing and a more streamlining of the ministries relating to the different sectors in policy making and the regulation work, so the private sector can have more ease in doing business? And of course, it's cheaper for the government to make these frameworks and these policies.
Right. So, Rafae, in a single program, this for the second time that you have changed the question, then it came to my turn. I want to actually contribute to what was said earlier as well, and of course, I'm going to talk about SOEs and right sizing and restructuring as well. I think that the government has come up with an SOE policy, and that is going to take care of right sizing and divestment both. And then, of course, there are these departments which need to be fixed. There are departments where they have become actually pool of surplus employees, and everybody, whichever political party comes, they just appoint more people and they do nothing. So there has to be some kind of fixing of that, and of course, for that you need attention to detail. Hopefully, in coming days, we are going to see that. But earlier, Raja Faisal was implying that somehow, if dog food or cat food actually pushes up our import bill, so that is not even an iota of whatever we are importing. I am a cat daddy, so I wanted to defend that choice. Because Pakistan does actually make cat food and dog food as well. Perhaps we need to be more competitive. Now, I was wondering about all these issues, lack of value addition, lack of packaging, and then ignoring so many great opportunities in the economy. And like, as I mentioned, our blue economy is totally ignored. Umpteen other things that we could have done, we haven't done. So it all comes down to one issue. And, for 25 years I've been writing columns, so weekly column. My tomorrow's column that I actually wrote today is on complexity. And I think that this is Pakistan's undoing. We haven't been able to master the art of handling complexity. Whenever things are easy, for example, you're not adding value to your agricultural produce, you just get it, process it, and export it. Why is it that if we talk about fish, we end up talking about just canning them and sending them abroad? There is so much you could have done with all these opportunities. But wherever there is a question of complexity, we stop, our imagination stops. If you just start thinking about opportunities that we have been ignoring in a healthy economy, in a healthy, business environment, usually, businesses are tripping over each other to exploit every opportunity. What do? We go for, herd mentality or headshot. If you're successful in one business, I'm going to open this exact same business. And there's a good chance because then Faisal is going to want to actually become part of the action. So what happens is that all of this is going to bankrupt you, bankrupt me, and him as well. And then Indians and Chinese and others are going to walk away with the business. So what we need to do is focus on complexity. we have to start thinking about building products which are not only exported but which can be used in this country also. This country consumes so much mobile phones, so many television sets, so many computers, but most of them are either imported or then Chinese company come and then they start manufacturing in Pakistan. Why is it that we are not training our workforce? Because when we export our workforce, what happens? Usually what we are exporting is people or labor for menial jobs. What we lack is people who are actually really in sync with the international market and they can show their expertise in everything. So as soon as we master complexity, when we start paying attention to detail and when we start using our common sense. For example, I spoke about trading, companies or shipping companies. Pakistan wants to be a trading hub for the entire region. And yet, you don't have a single private shipping company. Why would that be? Similarly, when it comes to meat deprivation, there are many households who don't even get proper protein intake. Why is it that we are letting all this fish go to waste? Or the fish comes, either dies or just moves out of our waters. Similarly, so many opportunities. If you want to add value, then you have to focus on complexity. Otherwise, Mushtaq Yusuf has written something beautiful in his book Zarguzish, and that is Muslims only are able to sell, leather products because they eat meat, and then whatever remains, they start selling it. If we want to actually continue with that kind of, easy economy and simple things, then of course you are going to be struggling all the time. Otherwise, start adding value, focus on complexity, and you can master anything. Rafae.
Definitely, that's a very great way to sum it up. Ali Salman, would you like to add any concluding remarks to the whole conversation that we've had?
Very enriching conversation. I agree with the point of complexity. In fact, one of the recommendations which our group made to the government and planning commission a couple of years ago was actually, using the complexity index and complexity tool to increase the product diversification. And there have been studies around the world, which suggest that how do we, bring more complexity in the products. Just a couple of very quick points here. I think very quickly, talking about the shipping companies and the seafood sector. Certainly, there's about at least $500 million of export potential which we have in this sector. But I just like to remind the audience here that it's not the case that we didn't have any private shipping companies. Actually, before the government nationalized and took over the shipping sector, there were international and domestic private shipping lines in Pakistan back in the 60s and 70s, which the state took over. And rest is, as they say, history.
Well, a lot of potential that needs to be worked on. With that, I'd like to thank all of our guests, Ali Salman, Executive Director of Prime, Farrukh Pitafi, Senior Analyst, and Raja Faisal, Geopolitical Analyst. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. As economic developments and the whole week in the country, there's good news for the Pakistan's economic front, and hopefully more news to come. See you same time on Monday. Till then, take care.